So, here's something I don't think I've really talked about much on this channel. I am a huge sports fan, and I've been one my whole life. For proof, I used to have nappy cornrows back in the day to be more like Allen Iverson. I also used to walk around high school with a lacrosse stick just to practice my cradling whenever I could. I even used to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and watch golf highlights on ESPN News while eating a bowl of Lucky Charms with no milk, mind you. Yes, the serial killer vibes were very strong in Young Chill Review. But my favorite sport for most of my life has always been football. From the ages of 8 to 17, I was a certified CTE demon. You could not convince me back in the day that I wasn't about to be the next Ricky Williams when I got older. But despite never going pro or even coming close to it, I still love football, and I'm still an avid fan over 10 years later. One of my other passions that I've talked about much more on this channel is my love of film. I actually went to film school after my football dreams fell apart, and spent about 2.5 years there before that dream also fell apart. But throughout my long life of loving football and loving movies, I became pretty accustomed to seeing the two brought together through sports films. Friday Night Lights, Rudy, Brian's Song, Air Bud, Golden Receiver, you know, the classics. But one thing I never thought I would see was a football horror movie. Just saying those two words together with movie after them feels weird and almost like it shouldn't even be allowed. That seems like how a lot of people felt about the byproduct of those two very different things coming together on film. And that byproduct is also the topic of this Chill Review Halloween special video. The sports horror movie that shocked the world in many not good ways. Him.
I'm him!
Who are you?
I'm him!
Yeah, let's go, boy! Saviors!
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Now, for anyone who has been a fan of my videos for at least about a month or two now, you will probably already know how I feel about this movie. In the trailer, I saw Marlon Wayans. I saw that one light-skinned kid from Donald Glover's hit show Atlanta. I saw both of them playing football. I saw a bunch of blood and weird, freaky bullshit. And I saw that Jordan Peele was attached as a producer. And after seeing all of this, I said, yeah, this is gonna be good. But the next thing I saw was everybody else's reaction to the trailer. And those reactions were more like, no, this looks terrible. And instantly, I was confused. People always talk about how tired they are of the same old in Hollywood. How stale the whole industry has become because of constant reboots and rehashes of older IPs and the same goddamn Marvel movies released over and over and over and over and over again. Him is something wholly unique, a football horror movie that was also part psychological thriller led by a mostly minority cast. That has never happened before. Do you know how hard it is to think of an idea for a movie that hasn't been done before? It's really hard. And Him somehow managed to do it. Then, on September 19th, 2025, that glorious day finally came and Him was released in theaters across the world. And wouldn't you know, the world hated its guts.
We don't want you!
The movie's Rotten Tomatoes score currently sits at sub 35% for critics and sub 60% for casual viewers. This puts it on par with cinematic classics such as Nacho Libre, The House Bunny, Airplane 2, the sequel, Eat, Pray, Love, The Transporter 3, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, and Men in Black 2. Wait, Men in Black 2's Rotten Tomatoes score is this low? What the hell is wrong with you people? Has Will Smith not been through enough?
The Jorlocks are gone and the treaty is signed.
Good work.
Zed, what about that position you promised me in Men in Black?
You're breaking up.
Zed?
Can't hear you.
Hello?
I'll call you back.
I can be Agent M. Zed, you...
Anyway, my point is that this movie got absolutely shit upon by critics and casual moviegoers alike when it first premiered. People online were talking like it was one of the worst films ever made, so for me, who hadn't seen it yet, I was kind of crushed to think that this film that had so much promise turned out to be a complete dud with no redeeming value. But regardless, I still went to see it about a week or so after it premiered, and man, did it live up to pretty much every expectation I originally had for it.
We going to the fucking league!
Him is equal parts creepy, gory, hilarious, epic, challenging, campy, shocking, tragic, triumphant, beautiful, and ugly. Baseball might be America's pastime, but in my opinion, football is the sport that truly bears America's soul and passion. Professional football is a glorious spectacle of violence, strategy, and brutality. 1/3 of the teams in the NFL wear the colors of the American flag. There are a slew of NFL teams whose names are American as like the Eagles, the Patriots, the Texans, the Steelers, just to name a few. It's also the only American sport where most of the best players are still American. Baseball, basketball, even the UFC and all of its right-wing sucking goodness have all been taken over by foreign athletes. But in the NFL, the worst a xenophobe or a racist has to worry about are a few big-boned Polynesian men with luxurious hair running around on every team. Other than that, football is still as American as apple pie. And I know this is a lot of preamble before actually getting into the movie, but I want to lay all of this out beforehand so that when I get to analyzing certain aspects of the film, like why all the fans of the Saviors football team in the movie are so fucking tweaked out and obsessive, you have some much needed context as to why those things in the film are in there. But the film's many important messages are just one of the reasons that I really love it so much. So let's get into it with a full synopsis and breakdown of Him's plot, and maybe we can start to understand why I loved this very strange movie that so many others did not.
You're starving to death in the prison. Somebody ask you, food or freedom? Do you really have a choice?
The main character of Him is a beautiful biracial angel named Cameron Cade, or Cam for short. Cam is a football prodigy who just finished his senior year of college and is now being scouted for the NFL draft. Cam's journey in the film is a very exaggerated and over-the-top depiction of what real football prodigies go through when they're about to join the NFL. They played well enough in college to attract the eyes of scouts who now want them to participate in a multi-day tryout session called the NFL Combine with their fellow NFL hopefuls. They end up doing a bunch of press and media tours promoting themselves to the league and to the fans. They face immense amounts of pressure and scrutiny over every game they ever played and every small or big mistake on and off the field they ever made or didn't make. As the movie illustrates pretty well in my opinion, this is an incredibly stressful time for most of these athletes who go through it. It's truly the culmination of everything that they worked for since they were little kids, and they're so close to achieving their dreams of being drafted into the NFL, but any small mistake at any point in the process can lead to them becoming unwanted and their draft stock plummeting. At first, Cam is shown in the movie to be a pretty mild-mannered and cool-headed young man, but there's something about getting the back of your head smashed in by a giant mascot with a metal hammer that seems to change a man's disposition a bit. By the way, how the f did this big ass nigga sneak up on Cam and knock him out in an open field without him noticing? Like, yeah, this spinning football is pretty weird, sure, but it's not so distracting that all of Cam's senses would be completely preoccupied and not be able to notice the right behind him. Forget it. It's not important. What is important is that this head injury is the big thing that could kill Cam's draft stock and make it so that he doesn't achieve his dream of being an NFL player. But just when Cam is at his lowest and he thinks his NFL dreams are crushed, he gets a call from his agent, Tim from Tim and Eric, telling him that Isaiah White, Cam's favorite player of all time and the greatest player of all time, wants Cam to fly out to his training facility in Texas and do a week of one-on-one training with him personally. And this was all to decide if Cam is really ready to be the next quarterback of the San Antonio Sabres, which, completely fake team, by the way. All of the football-related in this movie is completely fake. No way in hell the NFL is co-signing any of this twisted ass to be associated with their brand. And after a mildly unsettling conversation about the history of football and the quarterback position in particular, the boys get to training. And I just want to say here that at this point in the film, I was pretty into it, but I wasn't really hooked. But as soon as I heard that needle drop for Lemonade by Gucci Mane on Cam's first day of training, I knew this was the movie for me. This world is full of only two types of people. Those who understand that Lemonade by Gucci Mane is one of the greatest fucking songs ever made, and assholes. Be sure you know where you stand. But this training facility is where a majority of the rest of the movie will take place. Many of the scenes from here on out are just Cam and Isaiah sitting alone, yapping away in a sauna, or Cam and Isaiah sharing intense screaming matches on the field while being way too close to each other's faces, or they'll be out in the desert hunting people dressed as mascots? Man, this movie is really weird. And I think one of my favorite things about all this crazy that happens in this movie is just how nonchalant Cam is about all of it. Like, at first he's kind of like,
whoa, hey, this is pretty crazy, guys. What's going on?
But he never really pushes back against any of the craziness in a meaningful way. Then, by the third day in the training camp, he's already fully embraced the bullshit and almost starts to revel in it.
Y'all boys, stop playing with me! Dead body alert! Dead body alert! Come get your dead homie up!
I'm sure this could be seen as a bad aspect of the movie by some people, but I think Cam's suspiciously quick adaptation to the madness he's been thrown into can be explained with one plot device: goat blood.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
See, unbeknownst to Cam, throughout his time in Isaiah's training camp, he's secretly being pumped full of Isaiah's blood as he trains with him day after day. And this is definitely gross and absolutely weird as hell, but there's a very good reason that it's happening. Isaiah White's blood isn't just normal human blood, it's the blood of the GOAT. And as Isaiah says,
It's the good shit.
Damn! That shit good!
this GOAT blood is basically like the super soldier serum for Captain America. It allows Cam to recover faster, think quicker, and move with more strength and precision. Basically, he becomes prime Michael Vick. And from my interpretation, I believe the steady influx of this GOAT blood into Cam's body starts to alter his thinking and makes him more likely to look past some of the absurdity that he's exposed to at Isaiah's training camp. There's also some credence to the idea that Cam is just low-key kind of crazy himself, and he is willing to do whatever it takes to be the next GOAT of the league, even if that means choking a bitch to death.
Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?
Throughout the 7 days Cam spends with Isaiah, he realizes there's a lot of personal turmoil and intense inner struggle that comes with being the GOAT. Isaiah White's life is not a fun one. It's not a simple one either, and it damn sure isn't a peaceful one. Basically, Isaiah White is nutty as squirrels.
So please,
Get your fucking shit together!
And with him being near the end of his career and on the verge of losing everything he ever worked to get, it seems like he's barely hanging on to his sanity by a thread. As Cam spends more time with Isaiah, learning about both him and the shady business of being a professional athlete, he grapples with the reality that Isaiah is his potential future self. If he ends up choosing this life of glory, violence, and insanity, then he could become just as broken, miserable, and insane as his hero. But if he chooses to deny the life of a GOAT, he would be letting down everyone, his family, his friends, and especially his father. And similarly to Isaiah, he's not sure what life without football would even be, or who he would be without football. And that's something that a lot of real professional athletes grapple with when they come close to retirement as well. You can see the inner conflict both men are struggling with whenever they're around each other, wanting to like each other, but knowing that ultimately, that will probably never be feasible because the nature of them both wanting to be the same thing. The GOAT.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
The movie ends with Cam and Isaiah fighting to the death to decide who gets to be the starting quarterback of the Saviors. Cam wins the death match and is greeted by his agent and the owners of the team, who want him to sign his life away in some freaky-ass satanic ritual, which Cam briefly considers until it's revealed by his agent, Tim from Tim and Eric, that his entire life was a lie, and instead of his own hard work and determination leading to him becoming a highly touted football prodigy, he was actually just groomed since a young child by his father, his agent, and the owners of the Saviors to be the next GOAT, or the next chosen one to replace Isaiah White. So Cam, understandably, goes on a glorious killing spree and massacres the lot of them before taking his leave in slow motion like all badasses do, and then the movie ends and the credits roll. Did that explanation feel a little rushed and out of nowhere? Well, good. That's because that's exactly how it felt watching the movie. A lot of people had issues with the length of this movie and felt like it had at least 15 minutes or so missing from its climax. But even though I agree that the ending comes a little fast, I'm perfectly fine with a 90-minute movie. In my opinion, movies in general have become way too long nowadays. 90 minutes used to be the standard for a feature-length film. But now we're in an era where comic book movies are running for at least 2 hours and 15 minutes on average. And that shit needs to stop. But I'm sure you're wondering, if this movie has such a rushed ending and many other flaws that are never really resolved, why do I like this movie so much? My answer to my own question would be that I've always been willing to look over certain flaws of a film if its good elements outweigh the bad. What makes a movie great to me almost always comes down to the 2 M's, the moments and the messages. All of my favorite films are my favorite films because of the messages and the moments that they hold within them. I've never been one to care much about a movie's plot twist or how well the third act connects to the first act or anything like that. I care much more about how fun and/or captivating a movie is as I watch it, and especially how rewatchable that movie is. It's the same reason I can rewatch Batman v Superman endlessly, despite that movie being objectively horrible when it comes to how it was written. And that's because, despite it being terribly written, it still has a bunch of epic and memorable moments that I love revisiting. I love all the creepy hallucinations that Cam suffers throughout the training camp. I love the super flashy editing and the dark and edgy X-ray effects they put on characters in certain action scenes. I love how batshit crazy and erratic Marlon Wayans is as Isaiah White.
I am him! I am football!
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
It's almost like the director told him to play this role as if he was the Joker if the Joker was really good at football or something like that. And even though I think Marlon Wayans overdoes it here and there, especially here, I do still really enjoy his performance in this film, and I really enjoyed how well he and Tyreek Withers, who plays Cam Cade, bounced off each other in their scenes together. Arguably the best scene in the movie is when Cam is being interviewed about his motivation for playing football, and he basically has a mental breakdown while explaining that he blames himself for the death of his father because he died shortly after Cam told him that he didn't want to play football anymore. So it turns out that Cam isn't doing all of this for himself. He's doing it for his father and for his family, and he's doing it out of guilt and obligation, not a true desire and passion for greatness.
Let him down. Let him down. A few months later, he died.
It's a really heartbreaking scene that's amplified by Tyreek Withers' performance and the director's choice to show the entire conversation in just 2 shots. A close-up of Cam telling the story and a shot of Isaiah White watching him like a hawk in the background. I think the acting performances are important for me to highlight here because even though I've seen a lot of people eviscerate this movie online, one critique I have not seen very often is that the acting is bad. Pretty much everyone agrees that the acting in this movie was actually pretty good. And this is regardless of whether or not someone liked the movie, hated the movie, or didn't really care either way. And that makes me even more confused because most of this movie is carried by the acting. This is not a story-heavy movie. This is a 2 men locked away in an empty facility for 6 days straight and trying to get along with each other while also trying to kill each other movie. So if the acting is good and the movie looks amazing, which it does, and the editing is snappy and interesting and the soundtrack is great, why do so many people not like this movie? Well, from what I've been able to tell from the outside looking in, I think the biggest issue that people have with this movie is that they can't quite catch the tone of the film. A lot of times when people are confronted with something they'd never experienced before, they try to make sense of it by finding anything that they can think of to compare it to. I think a lot of people went into this movie with expectations of it had to be like this thing they've seen before with football, or it had to be like this thing they've seen with horror elements. And when the movie doesn't quite reach either of those ends of the spectrum, a lot of people just disengage with it because they either can't understand it or just don't like how strange it is. And honestly, that's completely understandable because, admittedly, the film's tone is all over the place.
You got fucked up. Fuck you laughing at? All right, lunchtime.
Usually, I would consider that a bad thing about a movie. But in this movie, every time the tone drastically changes from scene to scene, or hell, even at the drop of a hat within the same scene, I find it fucking hilarious, and it only endears the movie more to me. This movie is just so refreshingly unorthodox and off-kilter with its style and comedy. I also think this Julia Fox scene near the beginning is a really good litmus test to figure out if you're gonna get this movie's vibe or not.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. We make them for men now. Put it in your butthole, Cam. Anyway, have so much fun. Come on, Taylor, let's go.
That shit is either hilarious to you for how ridiculous it is, or it's annoying as hell and off-putting for how ridiculous it is. Also, good to see Julia Fox making a cameo as herself. But again, I think it's understandable to not get this movie. I was just surprised how many people didn't get this movie, and just how negative the reaction to not getting this movie was for a lot of people. And when I say people didn't get it, I'm not saying people didn't understand its messages and themes, because I'm sure most people understood what the movie was trying to say. It was about as subtle as an alarm clock when it came to delivering most of its messages. But just because it delivered the messages right on our noses doesn't mean that the messages weren't still meaningful. I personally related a lot to Cameron Cage's character because, as I said in the beginning of the video, I played football for most of my childhood, but no, I was not anywhere near as good as Cameron is supposed to be in the movie. I was not him. I was not that guy. But I did have a father who was very involved in my childhood football career, and even though I always appreciated and still do appreciate my dad being at my games and taking me to practices, the one thing I always hated most about playing organized sports was the pressure that his presence added to the experience. I've always hated letting people down in general, but knowing that my dad would potentially yell at me if I messed up or didn't play well kind of ruined some of my passion for playing sports. Not that my dad was anywhere near as psychotic about my sports career as Cam's father was, but it all stems from the same place. And I do really want to be clear about that though. My dad was not some abusive tyrant who wanted to exploit me as an athlete. All of this is much more about me being a chronic people pleaser with a crippling need for others to like me. My dad is actually a pretty good guy, and he did a lot for me both on the field and off the field. He's still a dweeb though. But it was that aspect of the film, Cam's relationship and guilt-ridden trauma regarding his father, that really spoke to me. There's also messages about the damage that football players incur on their bodies and the deceptively small reward that they receive in return. The average NFL career lasts just 3 seasons. That's an entire childhood and adolescence of training, injury, pain, suffering, and sacrifice, all for 3 years of glory, then 50 to 70 years of the terrifying unknown after. That's what the sequence of Cam training with the free agent players symbolized. The way football players' bodies are just cannon fodder for teams that need them today and will cast them aside tomorrow. As soon as their bodies break down and they're no longer of any use, these players get cast out of the league with almost nothing to show for their troubles. Australian funny man Jim Jeffries plays the head trainer in this movie, and while I do really like Jim Jeffries as a comedian, I do feel like his character was probably the worst offender of the on-the-nose messages that the movie did a little too often.
It turns out that human skulls aren't designed to smash into each other. Yeah, true.
The things that he was saying about how fucked up it is that he got into this sport to heal people, but he ended up being just an instrument that allows them to hurt themselves further, is tragic and important. But I don't know, I just felt like they overdid it with this character. Also, does anyone know why he was sacrificed and decapitated at the end of the movie? I couldn't really figure that one out, but whatever. It added to the craziness of the movie's final act, so I guess it was necessary. And then there's the message about how cultish and obsessive football fans are. The movie mentions the whole God, family, and football thing, and Marlon Wayans even twists it and says that for him, it's football, family, then God.
You know the saying, God, family, football. For me, it's football, family, God.
And I think that's more accurate to how a lot of football fans, especially in the South, feel about that holy trinity. It might seem over the top and exaggerated because this movie has a horror edge to it, but there are real people in the world who look and behave just like these freaks of nature. Go to a college football game between LSU and Alabama, and you'll see half a stadium full of people who look just like this guy. We treat these athletes as if they're gods amongst men. We deify them and throw millions upon millions of our tax dollars into constructing these giant stadiums for them to play in. Then we spend even more of our hard-earned money to watch them destroy their bodies for our entertainment and for the glory of who's number one. I mean, when you really look at it, professional football is like the most profitable cult/religion in the world. And him might seem like an exaggeration of that, but is it really that much of an exaggeration?
Football, family, God!
There are so many other things that I could talk about regarding this movie, like the part where Cam has to strip down to his bare ass and has every inch of his body measured and analyzed like how they used to do African captives during the slave trade. Or the running theme throughout the movie of male sacrifice and how too many men in modern society take it upon themselves to suffer in silence in order to make a better life for those around them, and just how dangerous and destructive that life choice can be for a man in that situation. But I don't want to get caught up in overanalyzing the finer points of this film because, trust me, there is a lot that could be analyzed about this movie. I could go on for days, but that's not why I made this video. I made this video because I genuinely liked this film and I was fascinated to see that so many others didn't. The interview clip of Marlon Wayans half jokingly saying that he hates anime now because that Demon Slayer movie did so much better than him at the box office is hilarious, but also painfully understandable. In his eyes, in Tariq Withers' eyes, I'm sure in the eyes of a lot of people who were a part of making this, they put a lot of hard work into this film, and I'm sure they believe they created a great piece of art. And there are plenty of people like myself who completely agree with that, but most of the world is just shitting on all of it. That's gotta be a gut-wrenching feeling, to know that you're great, that you created something great, but for that greatness to not be understood. I don't know if Him will be one of those movies that the world looks back on 20 years after its release and says, man, I can't believe people back then didn't like this movie. I don't know if it's ahead of its time or maybe just not right for any time, but I do know that I enjoyed it a lot. It's probably my favorite movie of the year, and I hope more strange and unique films like it are made in the future. The world says that they want originality, but apparently when it actually arrives, the world rejects it in favor of the same generic slop that they've been eating for decades. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, and I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Still hopeful, but definitely disappointed.